Dorcas Makgato is a seasoned politician, diplomat and businesswoman who has held various leadership roles in Botswana. She began her career in the corporate sector, notably in Barloworld, and then she moved on to become the CEO of Bedia, amongst others. That was before she transitioned into politics. She first entered the political scene as a member of the Botswana Democratic Party, specially elected, and rose through the ranks to serve as a minister in different portfolios. She has held significant positions such as the Minister of Trade and Industry, where she spearheaded policies aimed at promoting local entrepreneurship and investment. Later on, she became the Minister of Health and Wellness, where she led reforms in the health sector, particularly around HIV/AIDS initiatives and maternal health care. And at some point, she was also the Minister of Transport and Communications. Makgato has also served as Botswana's ambassador to Australia, further expanding her international experience and diplomatic acumen. She is known for her assertive and resilience in tackling tough political debates and for her vocal stance on various issues affecting women, gender equity, and human rights. So as she runs for parliament in the upcoming elections, we take time to pull the curtain behind the woman that she is. Dorcas Makgato. I want to thank you for accepting our request to come and sit down and have a discussion. Luena, I know the schedule is very tight. It's election season and we have a few weeks before the actual election day. And we appreciate that you found time in your busy schedule to have a chit chat with us. Our primary interest really at the Punchline podcast, Kele Lawrence Seretse as the host, is to try and engage with leadership and influences in our society. Yes, engage with leadership in our society and just try to learn other things that you never find on the front page of the news, you know. As you know, my background, I come from the media background, but half of the time I've often said that there are beautiful stories and interesting stories about people that we never talk about besides the politics and the corporate boardrooms and normal issues of the mainstream news. So our excitement to come and hang out with you here also is influenced by wanting to know your journey and your experiences in Australia as an ambassador, your journey and your experiences during your tenure as a minister in various portfolios. I do believe that the girl child out there, nowadays, we are feminists. Women also do inspire us. Is sitting out there wondering, why are you coming for a second bite of the cherry into the politics? I do believe that you have unfinished business that you want to come and handle. So I would like to exactly come into your space and get to understand the woman that is you. Makgato, thank you for accepting us in your beautiful farm.
And thank you for coming and driving all the way to the farm, which is really what I call my private space. I call it my sanctuary. This is where my soul is. This is where I find peace. This is where I find I can think, I can breathe, because we live such hectic lives. And when you are in the city or you are in the constituency campaigning or you are working overseas, whatever the chore at that particular time can be, you don't have time to breathe. But I find that being in the farm, it centers me. That's why I invited you into this space. I hope you are centered.
Yes.
Yes. Just breathe. So this is where I come to breathe and I come to hide. Okay. I want to start at the beginning. I don't want to start at the end.
Okay.
Because I want to reintroduce Dorcas Makgato from Bunyenyane to date. Because a lot about to date, or just the immediate past, is very well known. Some of it distorted, most of it true about who I am. Okay. But I want to talk to the boy child and the girl child. I want to take myself to when I grew up, coming from a basic background, basic home. My dad being a constable, I'm 22 pula kudipo. My mother working at Notwani Pharmacy. Then I go beggars. I go jet. I go financial service at the time, which most of you now know it as FNB. Okay. And me going to Camp Primary School, never having gone to any English medium school, understanding gore go jwa mokhongolo ko sekolong. Some of you will not even know gore mokhongolo ke ra eng. Understanding a society or a community that understood gore they are part and parcel of what happens within the school. Ha go sena dikgong le bolelo la ko assembling gore ka mosolo themogolo mongwe a teka le go bo gota go apewa dinawa be re ja ha dikwele di bulwa le bolelo lothe gore the first 2 days lothe la thagola sekolo se school, you know, and then moving on to Gaborone Secondary School, and then from Gaborone Secondary School moving on to Lotsane. Where but look at where we are and where we've come. And I find that growing up made me who I am today and made me or gave me the capacity to deal with the challenges. The girl child who is in my constituency at Mukoweng, and then my miss says, "Are laping? I want to miss because nothing will happen to you." Or while those responsible are still fixing the issue about hot water, but you don't miss school. You carry on. How to hagona that's the Botswana that I know. And then when we start looking for others to help us, we have already taken care of ourselves. So that's who Dorcas Makgato at the core of my being. This mindset change that we are talking about now talks to me. I remember my first encounter when I went into politics, when I was not I was still not you are told what to say, how to say it or how not to say it. And we were going into the campaign trail, going to see people, and I was told, you go see this lady, she's very influential. How much and I go to her and I get there. Her problem is and I look at her and I just do what Dorcas Makgato will do. You got it within your hands and your brain. Engage me. Don't talk about this is me. And my team at the time was horrified. They wanted to take me off the campaign trail. 2 weeks later, the moral of the story, she calls me. And I laughed. So it just takes a little bit to this is a true story. I'm not saying names for for good reasons. But I believe that to the core of my being, those of us that wait for the system or wait for others to come and help, because sometimes they might never come. Sometimes when they come with half what you expected or what we thought would be the solution. So I want people to go back to the core of their being and find solutions within themselves. Other institutions, whether it be government or whatever, but my ikarabelo anta, it is you. My ikarabelo or beyond that is having an anchor called God. Because he's there for a purpose. And then you just live a fulfilled life. It's not highly that's me to the core of my being.
Quite interesting that someone once said to me words which I thought were powerful. They say that life is a DIY.
Do it yourself.
It's a do it yourself.
I can relate to that. Yes.
So it's quite interesting how I mean, when you relate that story, when we say influence, that's what we mean. And it's quite interesting that you were able to speak some words into someone that allowed them to transition from a certain point to a different place in their lives and do something about their lives. It brings me to move to that, because I want to know, as you realize that about yourself and that about your capabilities and who you are within our society, how does it bring you into politics? What was your first entry into politics?
In fact, I have a love-hate relationship with politics. Love-hate relationship, because when I was young and I would mentor others, and I would mentor, when I was now perhaps corporate, I would mentor those that are coming behind me. I found I was most efficient and effective when I wasn't a politician. When I became a politician, there's often a distortion. You know, if you are successful because when it's absolutely far from the truth. But how people tend to understand your message and your narration better because they don't think it is because of politics. A lot of people say, I remember getting to the UK after I got a scholarship from Debswana. National Coach Service. But pardon? Oh, you meant national. So we can change it like, oh, it's called national. So whatever accent thing I know self-taught. In the process of that. So the hate part of the relationship in the politics. It is easy when you are a politician. In fact, it's hard. It's so hard, it's not funny. Because when you are in corporate, you earn money. When you are in politics, you know, you don't earn much. But people believe that you earn much. And in fact, they believe, 300 pula. I think it was the 10th parliament. One year we know, I got one where I got my dear Rogezu. And he was just laughing because we couldn't even go around Sharma and my dear Rogezu. We are cultures and vultures and whatever they want to call us. And I feel sad that people also believe how the hell out of politics that's the hate where you sit down and you say, right now, I've got a lot to offer. And when you transition in life and you actualize, you alone and your boys, like I have 4 boys alone and my mom and my siblings, it's not enough for the amount of talent and competence and experience that I have to use it just for that. I have to use it for humanity. I have to use it for the betterment of my country. I have to use it if I go politics for the betterment of my party. So, after all, I don't need a job, blah blah blah. And then I'm sitting here a commentator, this is wrong, that is wrong. Why don't I get up and do something about it? So that's where I now come in to say, this country has given me so much. Yes, I got the scholarship here. Yeah, Debswana. That is still part of government. And everything that I know or do, so we must, all of us, individually or collectively, give something back. And I wish you could give something back without having to deal with the dirty world called politics. I used to say, minister, because I'm a doer. I just want to get on with it. I'm a change agent. Let us do this, transform and get results. That's me. But I now have to politic. You know?
I'm interested in that. I'm interested in that because you elucidate how your hate and love relationship is born by the fact that even when you are coming in the noblest form that you can be to come and serve, there's always this suspicion that you are coming, or the mistrust that you are coming for some opportunity, or you are being opportunistic. Why? How did we get there?
It is because right now, and I think I've been in this game now for the last 2009 to now. Yeah. Probably 15 years or whatever. Yes. Yes, granted, I was outside politics for 4 years. But how long I feel so responsible. Koronama politiki. Ridiangwana yoko das. Kadi quick win, so-called quick wins. Tarona hore hanka buya jana ngwana yo tanteza ba mpatopo. Me would destroy ngwana. In a different format. Right now, one of the things that irks me the most as a person, where does that happen in the world? We ignore other solutions. And I'm not saying that because I'm a member of the ruling party. The solutions from where they're seated. It cannot just be and I wish they could change the narration. Go to your do it yourself. And it is very true. When I started this farm, I remember coming in ne ke sena tractora ke be ke re ke ilisa tractora motho a ba re nya wena o ministera price ya go ya go godimo ke bara ke re price ya no petrol ha re nya o minister wa mogela madi a mantsi ke ke mara ke nya gore re ga gone gore re santse rutwana. This is a very true story. The man when a ntirela trata a ba rena ke na le ditonki re tisa mogoma. So the first 3 hectares re lemile ka mogoma ka ditonki. It was on Facebook, everybody was said no go fake over, but it is very true. Ke tshwere seme ke lemile ka ditonki because my grandfather ona lema ka ditonki a lema sunflower e bitsa sona blom le mokhure a rekisa. So I come from that background. It was not a big issue for me. That was a solution that was hard to kogane rather than ke me ke re no kana ha o ka re emela di-tractor tsa government re ba ntse ke fodile line pula no, look for solutions within where you are and coming together. Kore ke gakologela gore ha re gola ne re ha re ya ko gae ke bana ba borangwane bana ba borakgadi bana ba boeng a ile ra morakeng bana ba bo malome ba re nna re le mmogo o talkang rote. We come together and we sort out how's na dithako tsa ga ntsalao kore that whole community family spirit of not them and us re tshela how them and us, and we are so desperate to get wins that we end up having to promise dilo tse di superficial gona re thoalle go ra bana ba batang ko morago gore you can do it yourself.
Quite interesting. And then you transition into the politics. I'm still trying to move along with it. Yes, because I want to understand what your last professional role was between, I don't know, is it Bedia or Barloworld or the other one? I think maybe Bedia. What your last professional role was?
I can just talk about that, but I'll start it from here, Jorge. And I say that because there's a lot of kids that are unemployed, and this conversation is to them. When I went to school overseas, study was not an issue. UK. Next time I arrive in the UK, I tell you course 2 years in hotel management. And I freak out because negatively one on that pass mo majority science or anybody read 7 additional maths. I'm like, I'm coming back home. Yeah. So I then decided I'm the one who put myself into this mess. I'm gonna take myself out. At that age I requested a meeting with Nchindo Touchwood. And they did not understand because everyone was talking about no, you are coming. No, I'm not. But I decided to back it up with work. I was doing 11 subjects. I said, so take out this like a distinction. So make it arrogant as I was, 5 earrings here, mohawk, maroon. Yeah, before the prop. Ke be ke tsama ke kopa go bona range no ke tsana go makere wa bona ke na le 11 distinctions but ke boele ga yena I believe I can go all the way about let this one go. In my company. So that was it. So I ended up doing a Bachelor of Science in Catering Systems, which was really management in that. And the reason I never diploma was because my argument was they were saying in Orapa they don't need a person with a degree in that space. Now I'm going to run your company at some point. So why do you want to limit me to the space? That was where I was my argument. I cannot be molded into a little corner. And tell the young lady to do whatever she wants to do. So I then went and worked in Orapa. One day, out of nowhere, so we were looking after community services, which had restaurants, and it had the guest accommodation, ETC. Horomente, Abatare, co-training and development or management center. But over had 2 years, I think it was. Otabe Asatolab Abahid PMT because it's a job that can be done by Botswana. Okay? Yeah. So I wrote that night, I decided, and my name came up. A personnel development diploma, management development diploma, blah, 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 in 2 years, rapid fire. I changed gear from management within the catering space. I'm now going into management development. Worked hard, passed with distinction, then was in management development in Orapa. Advert, Orapa is too small for me. Advert, Botswana, Asia manager, etc. But even if you know these patterns and I'm in C, and they said I have to be a minimum of 35. I was 28. I challenged the status quo, and they invited me for the interview. And they said clearly you don't qualify. I said I do qualify in terms of competence. I don't qualify according to you in terms of age. That's how I became HR for Air Botswana at 28 at the time. No. You are making a loss. Let's re-engineer the commercial division. And I re-engineered and geared themselves towards making profit, which we did. let's make a commercial manager. And I did. And then within 2 years, I felt Botswana was too small for me. I was poached or invited into the Barloworld space because it was the biggest private sector company. I did a strategy. Okay, I corporate man strategy. Then I ran one franchise, etc. The rest is history. And then I decided to retire at the age of 43. I was retired. I was done. I was where, you've got a bit of money and shares and this and the other. When you're sleeping, it must make money for you. I don't need to work. I don't want to be working class. I want to create wealth, right? Which is what I'm saying to the young people. You must have a plan. We cannot all be working class for the rest of our lives.
True.
And our idea, wealthy, entrepreneur, briefcase, I'm sure my 50,000 right? Our idea of success is really politiki, that can be. So we can be wealth creators in own right. So I then go retire myself, and then I get a call from Tswapon at the time. We are looking for a CEO at Bidia. We've been trying. You feed the prophet, I'm not looking for a job. No, can we just put your CV in? The rest is history. 2-3 weeks later, I was CEO of Bidia. Only for 18 months. I had a 5-year contract, but in 18 months, I was asked to come now to government to be a minister, which I did, Minister of Trade. I didn't apply for a job. The former president.
Yes. How did that go about?
Because you just get a call. I had 24 hours to become a politician, and I didn't know what I was getting into. Did you the first couple of weeks, or did I do it right? But the people that pushed me were my uncles, my parents. You can't say no. It doesn't make sense. Can I do that 24 hours? So it's like you are in one board. What you get at a board meeting, 1 hour, is what you get in 2 months. 24 hours every single day. And I'm like, what is this? So it was really a mismatch. But anyway, then I said, okay, growth is what is driving me. I'm going to grow. I've been looking at the world from a narrow perspective of the private sector. I'm now going to understand it from the other side. I'm in this thing for 5 years, and then I'm done, and then I carry on with my life. And then I was asked, I don't want to be lame duck. If I come in because I'm nominated, once the person that has nominated me leaves, I'm lame duck. Never been lame duck in my life. So let me go rumble and tumble. That's how I enter into politics, so that I am not a lame duck. Okay?
Rumble and tumble meaning going straight to the grassroots now to run for election votes.
Yes. Okay. And Lona look on that, oh wow, that's a good nomination. She's a technocrat. She's been successful at Bidia. She brought in $500 million worth of investments. She's been successful at Botswana. She turned it around. She's been and that used to piss me off, if I'm allowed to say that. But it used to annoy me, to ike me. I've worked so hard all my life, and you've called me because I'm delivering something.
Because you don't have the people's vote.
Exactly. So I had to get the people's vote, and then I had to get grassroots within the party. That's when I ran for women's wing, chairperson, which I won. And then I said, no, you completed this loop, so let's carry on with life.
So tell me, I'm intrigued. How does a conversation like that with the president go?
I can't remember when I was sworn into secrecy, but I think I got a call like this. Good afternoon, ma. Hey, I have decided to nominate you for this, and I have also consulted with the party, and the party has also agreed. So tomorrow, be at Parliament, you'll be sworn in at 7 o'clock. I say, hold on, can't I say no? Is this that deal? Yeah. So from that call must have come around 10 o'clock, and by 2 o'clock I had called my staff. By 3 o'clock I'd called the board to resign. By 9 o'clock my mother was saying her broadcast. Kailo go tetse monna ga to wa rona wa kasi utsedi ke tsana ke tela batho ba kasi go ba lokola be go rekiswa shake ha le go go monate kasi yote e say wa rona o tsene sa. And I'm like 9 o'clock I say, oh by the way, what am I wearing? And then I get the guys who always make me close, but when I say case Edibir 7 o bota go tsamsese. So that's how it rolled. And this one is a funny story, politics. Then ka 6 mapakela dobele ya lela. This guy comes and he says, when this guy wanted to answer me before I'm even sworn in already. I'm like, What is this?
So how
Hey.
did you feel at the time when all of this is happening? Because now you are transitioning into a whole different sphere of
I was
professional.
very indifferent. I'm not quite sure whether I was excited. I was a bit nervous. I think nervous would be because my dad has always said, "Ke se ka ka tsena mo teng ga politiki."
Okay.
You know, but then he was gone. My dad never saw me in politics, so I'm like, yo, am I defying him in his death or ing? But my family, as in my mom, my uncles, and others are encouraging me to hop along and grow, because I've always intended that I'll go global at some point. So this was good for my resume if I wanted to go global,
Yes.
doing whatever globally. So it was a bit nerve-wracking but excited at the same time. I was going into something totally different. You see.
So
Yeah.
that was probably around
2009.
2009, and you went for elections, or you went first as a specially nominated.
Yes, as a technocrat.
As a specially nominated first, and then you went for elections in the following
Following term,
cycle.
which was 2014.
Yes.
Yeah.
So between that, when you came in, since we are already in there, during your time in office, then you obviously led several ministries such as trade, and then you left from the Ministry of Health.
No, I
and
left
whatnot.
from transport. I
You
did
left
about
from
4 ministries. Yeah.
Health and then transport. Could you walk us through that journey and some of the policies that you've pushed during your tenure as a minister?
I think the bulk of the work that I did, the majority of the work where we were doing new things, largely a trade. Remember, we had to rebuild the ministry and position it to what the environment required at the time. So we transitioned from Ministry of Trade to become Ministry of Trade, Industry, Trade, Industry, and something. I've forgotten now. I
That
have to
was
remember.
Ministry of Trade and Industry.
No, and investment, right?
Investment, yeah.
It went into Ministry of Trade, Industry and Investment. My view as minister at the time was we need to take all the components, say, facilitate that both trade and industrialization and investment under one umbrella so that you can direct them accordingly. So that's how we got CEDA, which is the funding part of investment, especially to Botswana. We brought it in. We brought in layer, which is the development aspect that you can link to investment. We brought it under the same roof. We then brought BDC at the time to come under the same roof. No, not BDC, financial services to also come under the same roof. So you can walk through being trained, from being trained, being walked along to try and find investment or match make, and then go into funding, and then complete the loop within the same ministry, because then we could coordinate better. So that's what I remember the most. I also remember pushing. I'm a strong believer in small businesses, pushing a lot of relaxation of laws. When you travel abroad, you find that some of the strongest economies, they're strong because they have a vibrant SMME. You know, in fact, when I did my master's recently, I did my thesis was on factors which affect women-owned businesses in Botswana, a case for Botswana. And I wanted to know, within the policies that we developed that are there, why is it that these businesses are not growing and they're not sustaining themselves? I've investigated that, and probably at some later stage I'll publish that study. Because I did attain my master's with distinction, by the way. So I was very busy. You know, and so I then also came up with the the law that I remember that I did not like, but I had to do because it's a job. Quite gambling. Personally, I don't like gambling. We established the gambling authority. I was excited about special economic zones. That was also a law that I brought in. I was pushing for cooperatives. If there's another mindset change area, Batswana coming together. You know what I was just saying? How do we market our? Imagine if agriculture. Imagine if Botswana can just decide, or you know what? Starting from today, shop. We're not selling to big shops. And imagine what would happen. you know. But but imagine if that could happen, what it would do
to grow the informal sector.
And to grow the informal sector. And I remember I got that from Kenya when I traveled to both Kenya and Tanzania, how they grew the sunflower together, or how they did the dairy industry together, etc. So I pushed for cooperatives, I pushed for small development, I pushed for diversification. The economic diversification drive very big like EDD. That was during my tenure as well, where our firm belief at the ministry at the time, which is what we sold to government, was to use government appetite or government budgeting to jumpstart industry and then redirect. Imagine if we say all government offices must have local art, and it's all local art and it's budgeted for. You can actually measure it and say per year we spend so many millions on local art, where we are pushing for entertainment might also be local industry, etc. Where we are saying I don't want to say choice assorted or eat some more or whatever, because that would be wrong, but I don't biscuits your cottage industries and that's what ministry, you know. So yeah, that it was, but I was also very instrumental in I was chair at the negotiations with the European Union, but I was chairing the whole of SADC.
Yes.
And those were tough. And they were tough because when we were negotiating as a group, we also had one member who already had a technical agreement direct with the EU. So trying to make sure that there's alignment was also a challenge. So very exciting at the time. The other thing that I enjoyed the most beyond EDD was the formation of BOMO, because I love the creatives.
Botswana Music Union, yes.
Botswana Music, not Botswana, not BOMO. Where you get money and then you redistribute it.
Cosbots.
Yeah, Cosbots. Yeah, that was my time. Yes. That was my time as well. So there was a lot. No, it's not la mahal, you know. But if you said to me, out of all the ministries, because I went to health, which I said let's look at it as health and wellness.
Yes.
Now I was pushing the wellness part. Coming from sports, the wellness was important. I felt that because in health you've got curative, which is the PDCD part, that the operation and then which is the wellness part, which is you now taking responsibility for prevent, because that's sustainable. This is unsustainable. So having to change mindset of the doctors within the ministry, the staff within the ministry, this is where we must go. Having to mobilize people. If you recall, I said your health is your responsibility, not my responsibility. And I said that in Parliament. And they were going for my head, are we tola marap? Tona ya la ru tola marap. Ke ba kere ga itola because wena wa go tsama bosigo wa go itontela o bo ja nama o bo taka ga ote o ba go tatsa di line go spatela kwa o it is my problem. Wa bana no ka sku jina ma ona le ndenyana we ikopanya le whisky we ikopanya le o tswa mo Gauteng, then I will not be clogged go di clinic. So it was about taking back and pushing back to people for them to understand that indeed it is their responsibility, and if they wanted to get out of that, they must go do something about it. So then we had get the people to walk, you know, walk for your life. We had, and I said every activity that we do, how in 20 minutes in the morning, have the 20 kilometers in the morning before I do anything. How in 20 kilometers walk in the morning before I do anything. And I just got people to move. You know, and I enjoyed myself. And how our ministry's 10 stories are, hey, but I lift is at I get now I was doing 10 flights. No.
All the time.
Yes.
And it was around the time when you had Ministry of Health where you say something that I remember vividly. I think it was at a rally in Good Hope. And there was a serious public backlash on that when you say that if they don't vote BDP, they will never get there. Was it a clinic? They'll never get a clinic.
No, I never said that. It was not even in Good Hope. It was called it was Mantengabukang. I've forgotten where it was. This was the context of what I said, and it was distorted deliberately by our comrades. I can't remember when distorted, but Kineke Raya, Mokansalara Margaret, Canada, Helen Nalwen. Yano Jaka, we say how look it's easier for you to have conversations because you belong to the same church. I can't get all Zamu Diakon, Yana Zamu Huturi, Lona Lekanghai. Yanuga, Rezana Kerekelung Wehel. Clinic area, Vatani. When I would say, ke motho o ela batla o ntshwara ka thoko nta gore o tsamaya ga kae yo mongwe yo le ene ga gona gore o ta ntshwara kae ka gore tabe ke re kwa kerekeng ya le ko ya gago so mo thopeng gore re tere berekele mo nakong so they just said I mean look it was political banter yeah.
Quite interesting. So when we're talking about the ministries that you have led and some of these
and
policies
the
that,
other one was nationality and gender and
yes.
and you know the national but ke home affairs.
Yes,
You know,
it was
and
Home
then
Affairs.
the last one was transport and communications.
Yes, yes.
So hanga bala di ministries tse ke tswa mo go tsone gampieno
Yeah,
ka di kgaogane
5 or something.
a ke re gona le entrepreneurship kana
Yes.
kwa teng kopane le trade a ke re
Yes.
and then go no gona le transport and communications gampieno ke infrastructure and then ke communications le go toko it's something that I was also lobbying for when I was at transport gore tota ga gona le borogo ga bo go to e-government ra go go borogong betso these things cannot the competing needs tse le gore ga di a tshwara gore di in the same platform and then a bo tsenya health go tswa go bo tsenya ke go yo setseng konte Home Affairs
Home Affairs.
go
Immigration,
sports kana tota ne
immigration,
re ilaola ke re ne re lobia gore re nne le ministry o ka nna tsenya because I'm familiar with that environment so I think I'm very familiar with a wide range ya di portfolio tsa re tse di harologaneng.
So obviously, Gerao, we can go into all of them, but Rikathola, I think in a nutshell, you've walked us through some of the changes and policies that we have influenced over time and those that you have oversaw. So when you look back now, and you look back, what do you see? What could you do different in those ministries? What do you think you could have done different? Or do you just see that you've only added value and it's enough?
No, I'm a natural change agent. And I'm a natural transformer. You cannot achieve growth if you don't change, if you're not continuously changing.
Yes.
You have to be continual. So I can't sit here and say there's nothing that can be done. Look, beyond my time, they separated entrepreneurship from that's a move forward. I get. So I can say that what I did at the time, I wouldn't do it any different. I'm quite satisfied. I'm actually quite satisfied with my legacy because in all these ministries, I can show you tangibly what I achieved. And I mean, when I go to Ministry of Health, for instance, it was chaos. There was not really it was chaos. But I managed to get them to sit down and say, ARVs
mostly at the time.
Not even ARVs. There was not paracetamol.
Yes.
Yeah. And also I was trying to align our budgeting and our spending pattern with our disease profile. You know, sometimes when you get into technical, so-called technical ministries, because how less than, which was the initial approach when I was going there. What do I know about health? I'm sure you remember. I called them into a meeting. Penicillin, amoxicillin, paracetamol, brufen, because it's not about that. It's about management and leadership. That I know because I've been trained and I'm experienced in that. Do them differently to achieve, and we did achieve at the time. Similarly, when I went to Ministry, what you call now Home Affairs, I got there only 300 Oman cards backlog, really the top. And when I went there, you go into systems and internal efficiencies. That is what you learn when you go to graduate school for business. Let's look at the internal efficiencies. And then you remove those. I remember removing unnecessary things. How can you tell a 65-year-old 15 years? That's logic. So let's get on. You know, why are you insisting that when it's not their religion? Or even why can't they wear tuku? Because your identification worldwide is your face. Little things that you just let's get along and you do things. And then being able to reduce the issuance of Omang. I think you could get your Omang in a day, could get your passport in 2 days or something. You just do certain things and get people to be the best that they can. Yeah.
That's quite interesting. So when you look at it, because now you are coming back for unfinished business, running for Tswapon. Running for the Tswapon. Personally, out loud. if you were to be brought back into and be given another portfolio in the ministry, what would you desire?
I wouldn't even want to speculate because the prerogative of assignment lies with the president. So
Of course.
I would not be clever and I would not even be fair on my president. No. Where am I? I'm focusing on my constituency, Tswapon South. There was a lot of development that came in. I even costed it in excess of 2 billion, whether it be the water infrastructure, road infrastructure, the clinics that you bought, and a lot of money that came out of social investment. We are going to be opening a clinic relatively soon that's also donated. We managed to build a school with Bonashua in a village called Letoring. We managed to build government offices because those now. So I was teaching them, it cannot always be about government. Okay. Let's fundraise if we must. Let's go look for companies that are willing and the power of persuasion for them to come in. So I saw that and I still want to put more because our constituency right now we have the water that has come in, granted, but the distribution of it, the infrastructure to distribute it is not matching with the amount of water that's coming in. So somebody needs to push that. So when I go home, even though when I go home, I want to be able to have a shower. You understand? So that is what is driving me back to go. I saw that it's possible. I can look at it. I saw it. There's legacy programs within the constituency. I want to go do more when I still have the energy to do so. That's why I've decided to be biased and go kwahesh. Yeah.
In this, what's your experience with the private sector, basically, in terms of participating in social development?
Look, I've been there. I've been at the table as a strategist of the biggest private sector company. You understand? And I know how to persuade. I know how to negotiate. You understand? I remember at Barloworld, I can't remember the year. There was a time where we devalued the Pula twice in succession in a short space of less than a month. And Barloworld, which had persuaded, Ghana Barloworld was a big company. When I joined it, it was 389,000 employees worldwide. When we then restructured, we went down to 218,000 worldwide. And I was top talent. Top talent at Barloworld, they took the top 200 people. These are the people that in the morning they can say, "Peg your bag, go to Spain. We need you to go and sort out this problem." And you go there, you do it. So they trained us. You know, when I talk about Gordon Institute of Management, it is tailor-made. When we go to the House of Commons, or we needed to understand how the world works, and they spared no penny in training us. You understand? So it was not surprising that I was nominated at some point as one of the promising, influential women in the continent of Africa. That's how I went to Yale to go and be trained at Yale and Harvard. And that's where I met Hillary Clinton, because they brought in women who've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and they got them to share their experiences. But to go back to Puso, which really was
the voluntary participation.
The voluntary participation of organizations.
More? We see more.
I don't,
when it's an influential person like you.
I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I can talk about if you know how to talk to the private sector and persuade them. Sometimes even the organ itself, it doesn't know where's their payoff line. What is the return of that investment? And I know that from when I was at sports, when we were pushing our affiliates, you must give me what is worth for me, a proposition.
Yes.
So we did that go sports, and there were companies in the impact, but you went at the impact later. Remember, I was the first person Barloworld BNSC Awards, and I said to them, now I want in return as Barloworld, I want them to be called Barloworld BNSC Awards. If I'm going to put $1 million into it, then we managed to bring in a South African Broadcast Association, because we had a product to sell that they could fly in that way to go. So it's understanding the arguments by nature. If they want to be a good corporate citizen, they can do that by number one, trading and doing their business, but also caring about the community. Granted, it's easier for me, not necessarily because of influence, because I have been in the private sector. I've got a strong network in the private sector, so I know where to go.
You understand understand the thinking.
And
out
I
there
understand
all
the
that kind of
thinking, and I
stuff.
can sell the concept, and they can come. But out there, Laura, ke kopela kgaolo ya me ya sotega no, how is it? You must come with a story. Say, Lungore, it will also benefit the organ itself that you are targeting. Yeah.
So I'll digress a little bit because I want to understand a different topic that I know you are very passionate about. Your views on especially gender and social issues, women. Women's rights are particularly a case of interest, the right to abortion. For me, we have been seeing a lot of stories maybe on social media, and we know that women still cross the border to South Africa to go for procedures such as that. What is your stance on the legalization of such in Botswana, and what are the challenges hella in Botswana's context as an issue that affects women's health and women's rights? We see it in America. There's an ongoing debate about that.
The challenge is here. If you want to do any change within a society, you must look at the maturity level of the society in terms of that subject matter. So it can be anything. So sometimes I feel there's a lot of influence by other countries or what is happening in that particular environment. They have matured enough in the subject matter to say this is where we need to be. I often say there's a country that shall remain nameless. Let's be supposedly controversial. Constitution ya bone the rights say the society kwa you've guaranteed, say for instance, when you legalize gay marriage. The society, what are you talking about? I gotta leave them behind. What do they do to these poor people? So one has to be careful. Issues such as this one, labor in isolation of other things. Rights. It's rights, it's accountability, it's where is the community at the same time. So that everybody is safe within that environment and everybody is with it. Do you understand? So I'm passionate about women's rights and all that. I'm passionate about women's rights within the context of the community that we live within, and provide that which is right, not that which could be theoretically correct, but more harmful to them. Yeah, and I also say, we have a mix. Culture ya rona. Anything that we do, say progressive, we must also bring them along so that they can see logic in what to do. When I talk about that, for instance, a similar debate in a right to vaccination of the child within the Bazezuru tribe. So you need to sit down. You always have. So do we legalize abortion? We can't talk about it outside the context of everything else that is down there. So, personally, Dorcas, I would say let us exercise caution as we progress this matter and make sure we bring everybody along.
Okay, it's quite interesting. Maybe I don't know whether it's a fair one without the statistics, because social media nowadays just gives us information that we see any trends and all of that, and we see our young girls crossing the country, and clearly it's telling that people are doing it. I can
remember I've been Minister of Health.
Yes.
They are doing it, and you can tell that it's been done by those by paying, and then you have to clean them up. It is happening. All I'm saying is, before you pronounce or this is want to do this thing, make sure that your ground is right so that it happens naturally and it happens properly with everybody along.
So do you feel we are still behind as a society?
How they dig in. The churches will dig in. Remember the conversations that are happening within a particular church that at some point in time did not even want to talk about condoms, did not want to talk about gays. It is a guy. And look at things transition. That's what I'm trying to say to you. But we have to bring everybody along.
That's quite interesting. So when we are talking about this, we are going into politics. There are obviously, women in politics is an important topic. We've seen a positive trend, especially with President Mokgweetsi Masisi of appointing more women in positions of authority. But I often say that power and authority are different things. Those who still argue fairly that there's a lot of men still in positions of power. I often say position of authority in my argument. I say you have a lot of head of finance, women, HR, more women, PR, more women. Some of these mid-level management roles, you have more women. And then at the top, you obviously have a male figure.
Rezo, stop battering it and dressing it up. Bottom line is we don't have women labor in politics.
Yes.
And where do you get that from? Our demographics show you go bo mme re bantsi. Ordinary landers are maka pattern na demographics. We live in a patriarchal society. It's difficult for women out there to go and dig in a patriarchal society. Why is it that women are more successful? Granted, in his tenure, in positions of authority, right? But in own right, they are happening within industry. Own right. Now, why is it that politicking? Because politicking it goes away from competence, it goes away from experience, it goes away from those logics, it goes away to the vote. You is sharing yana top ore. Na ke leba. Ugaranga topa mutuare. Kitabe kile buto. I that's now the society itself.
So it's the society.
It's the society go nature. What it does not matter. Lao katanya quota ware enya abane 30% but at the end of the day, eno yango voter. That is where we ought to focus. But how do we educate and bring along again? Majority level again.
Yes.
How do we bring along our voters? Imagine what Botswana how gar I remember at some point when I was a leader yabomme, where some of my colleagues were complaining ke support abomme kana gore hore ke bataba jwa ke di top. I was saying, okay, ha ke tsoga mapekela ke le modula stilo abomme. Tirwane king as go encourage bomme nka bara ka renya me hela le skala baja ke di colleagues that would be the most logical argument. Yes. So it's natural that I'm going to support bomme to come and take positions of power. But bomme le bone they need to develop a thick skin. E garna thick skin politics ya tena motho gona o tsogela maphekela ba re mama gato o rekisa di ARV e di minister wa health ayaka. Well, this one don't even cut it out. Ayaka. You know, and you're like, where is this coming? How do you just wake up in the morning and just lie? You understand? The next thing before you know it, it has caught fire. Hey, mama gato rekisa di ARV. Na rekisa di tamati. You understand? So what do you do with constantly and engwe le gore ke tsa gore bo me ba etshaba. How le motho o le mosadi o le mo politicking. They run to the fact that you sleep around, you sleep with everybody. You know.
Hey, I've seen that. That's quite interesting. What's your views on that?
I wanted to say a word that will not be allowed. I think I said to the women out there, how in your journey of growth, all these other things, because the higher you go, the more it comes. The more it comes, the more you just ignore it. I just laugh when people say you have started carrying you are done with that person. Again, when I always say, but of course, very simple. Yes. So say what you like. What is not true about me? Your business, not my business.
Yes,
you understand? Yeah. But I just wish I could talk to the women and to say, as women, come who go and see what happens.
But it will be quite interesting because a country like Finland is predominantly run by women in positions of power and politics.
Look, during COVID, I'm sure you remember the story. You remember Germany, you remember New Zealand, you remember don't you remember those stories?
Of course, I remember. They were leading. And these are countries that are actually progressive
so,
if we put them on the scale.
And I honestly believe for Botswana, the more women we have in politics and in leadership positions, the better it is for our country. Women lead from empathy. You know, we have empathy here. Men generally don't have empathy. But factually that dry, you know, and they look at effects like that.
Yes,
So it is my sincere wish that the new generation that's coming up will not be intimidated by politics. A lot of my colleagues are asking me a question that usually have I was like aggressive and deliberately so. Can't they me wonder what do you want in this thing? You could run your farm, you could go global, you can do this, you can do this. Why we exited this space. So I'm hoping that the fact that I've been there, and I'm going there, and I wish we were doing this after because I'd be saying and I've won again.
Yeah.
And it's a journey. You go, you tumble, you fall,
Yes,
yeah. But remember, mine was a principle stance of, I'm taking this position because I believe I'm accountable to the future generation. When they ask me to say, when the constitution of this country was being trampled upon, and you were there, what did you do? I can't give an answer that says, no, that will not be a good answer.
Yes.
It has to be, I gave it my all. Kabaka lose at the top as a result of taking a principled stance. It's okay to be alone. It's lonesome, but it's okay sometimes to be alone when you are fighting a principle. But I'm still alive. I'm here today. I'm still Dorcas. I'm still going to run. See what happens, and then we carry on with life.
Yes, in a few weeks. Speaking about being alone, you've been a very private person about your personal life and all the likes. When I was talking to a few of my close friends who are especially women, young women that coming to engage with former Minister Dorcas, they said, yo, I love that woman. I can't wait to hear that comment. I was like, okay, that's quite interesting. So at the apex of all of this, I think there is also an interest just to know about how you run your personal life. Amongst all of this, sometimes we see you as a minister, as an ambassador, as a rock hard person, but deep down you have a personal life. You are a human being also. And I just want to...
let me help you.
I do open that door for me.
I do have a personal life.
Yes.
And I want it to remain personal. It's not your business.
Yes.
I do have a public life, which I've decided. And the reason I've separated these roles is because sometimes people don't understand. They want to go beyond thing. Be opinionated about the business that's mine that has absolutely nothing to do with them. So I've gone out of my way to keep my private life very private and to keep my public life very public.
Yes. My question was actually going to be how, not necessarily going into that. I'm never interested in behind the curtain stuff. How do you balance your private life and your busy public life? Basically, that's what I'm interested in because your career has been demanding over time.
It's a challenge. I'm not gonna lie. It's a challenge. In fact, this time around, I'm enjoying myself because my kids have grown.
Yes.
Remember, I have 4 boys. The last one is doing first year university. The twins are playing rugby and doing second year, their second degree, and Khape is busy also doing something. They're all in Australia, right? So it means now I have a life, I have my time, I control my time. It's my time and my business as in time because, then I can choose to go visit them or they come visit. But I don't have a child that wants me to take him to school in the morning to go see him play sport. It's been a challenge, but you need to have a family infrastructure and friends by long they support. I have a bill to present in Parliament and one against swimming, and I really would like to go and see him swim. I can't delegate another minister to present a bill, so that there were times when I really wanted to be with my boys, but I just had to give priority to work, but it was painful. And I didn't realize that it was painful until I went to Harvard and Yale, remember?
Yes.
When we got there, the first session, I think they had the flip chart, and they were saying write 5 words, because it was all successful when there was 10 of us from the whole country, just 10, and write the words. They come to you immediately with regards to your success. And I wrote, and I wrote sad. I didn't know. And then the first thing, like, the lecturer says, sad. Who wrote sad? I'm like, do I own that? So, and then I get called, I must explain sad. Why sad? Because I carry these young admirers who look at me. They think it's all hunky dory. It's first class travel. It's champagne. It's the works. It's Gucci. It's all those things. I get. It's not all that. And sad was how at times I wanted to see my little boy take his first step, and I have to be shown on a video, and I wasn't there as a mom. How I had chosen Musa for 2 years both, and I won't say which one. I had to go on a trip when he was 5 months, I think it was, or 7 months. I had to go on a trip, and I went on a trip. And when you go on a trip with Musa, you continue to express how about Musa. And I'm like, no, I get this body in time. I'm like,
the train has left the station.
and I had to cry and sense that rejection. So that is where some of my sad moments were coming from, because you can't be both. So you try as much as you can to have a balance. With the first one, for instance, I remember whenever I went on a course to South Africa, I'll take him along and I'll put him to the nearest nursery school, and then I go to work. So he was always traveling with me around to try and not miss too much time out of that. But if I had to do it again, I'll still do it. I was saying to them the other day, or to at least one of them, if I had to do it, and then I bring presents from Europe, and it's about, can I go for a sleepover? No, this time I'll say no, because I want to stay with you, stay close to you. But it's hard, it's not easy.
Quite interesting perspective. As you move along, then you end up in Australia.
Yes.
How did you?
Wasn't my plan.
It wasn't your plan. You had few squabbles, internal party wars, and then you ended up in Australia.
I never really had. Let me correct that one. I never really had internal party squabbles at all. Perhaps maybe it was perceptions out there. I never did. What I had was a different opinion. In terms of approach towards the 2019 elections.
Yes.
I was of the view that we needed to vent out and say what was wrong about what was happening at the time, and in terms of approach, etc. So we leave it at that. But how did I end up in Australia? I was offered the assignment by His Excellency the President after I lost.
Yes.
But remember, for me, I've never ever considered it as a loss. And that was because my focus at the time, remember, I was in the national leadership. I was Women's Wing chairperson, and I was busy campaigning the entire country. I was launching Kokang, I was launching Aburun, I was launching Konat, it was not about my constituency. Whereas now I'm focused. I'm anchored in my constituency. That's why you are lucky. This is probably the first interview after Juma that I'm doing. I've just been focused and entrenched in my working with my people to ensure that I deliver that constituency back to the BDP. But there was a lot at stake in 2019, because we were talking about popular vote of the BDP that had gone down to the 40s.
Yes.
And we needed to pick it up. And we did. That election picked the popular vote rate to about 68%. That election increased our constituency. So the fact that Dorcas Makgato is a constituency is a big deal. How many more did we gain? So I was so happy in 2019.
So it happens in the party within the 2019 elections. You are offered.
Yeah, I was saying. So after the elections,
yes.
I was I get deploy you. So I was offered this deployment, and I just said yes, sir, thank you. But I went tomorrow, and I left. But I had to also recalibrate myself, because remember, you are used to, for the last 10 years we've been operating at Ministerial, where whereas now I'm going to be ambassador and I'm going to be reporting from within the structure. I now had to change on how I lobby for things, how I influence things, but I did not want to lose my focus. This is an assignment. I must bring tangible things. It's only for 4 years. I must be able to say, this is what I delivered. And I used that which I know best, which is engagement with the private sector, engagement with the mining industry, engagement with the agricultural sector, etc., and managed to persuade and bring our president to Australia. And the rest is history. You know what we have brought back out of Australia, the relationships that we have brought at business level. And also to even though Australia is so far away, our view as the African diplomats at the time was they were focusing more on Indo-Pacific. They were not focusing on Africa.
Okay.
And we had to push an argument, a narrative that everybody that ignores Africa now, diplomacy, everybody that ignores Africa now is going to come at an expense because we have a broad agenda. We want these countries to come and engage us as we define Africa by us, for us, not them telling us what the Africa should be. And they need to participate in that. So it was a different experience.
Yes.
You had to speak differently. You had to engage differently. From what I was used to, I learned. But remember, it was Australia, it was Indonesia, it was New Zealand, and 4 Pacific Islands. Unfortunately, we lost 2 years out of COVID, and then whatever I did or delivered was in the last 2 years.
That's the question I specifically want to ask for a person who doesn't know what diplomacy and all this foreign mission means. Is basically to say we understand what your job was, but what did we gain? What did we bring maybe in your time?
In the simplest of terms, diplomacy is about active engagement.
Yes.
It's about partnerships.
Yes.
It's about being relevant in Australia because I was assigned there, and Australia seeing the relevance of being in active engagement and relationship in Botswana. What is it that we can do together? Okay, but the world has moved away from political diplomacy. We're at economic diplomacy. I was fortunate enough for instance, if you take Africa down under the biggest mining conference in the world by far, that is about getting investment out of Australia into Botswana. I'd participated I'd participated as CEO of BIDIA. I'd been there as Minister of Trade. So I was now coming in Her Excellency, as they call me at the time, but generally history born. So it was easy for them to say, look, we want to have an impact in this industry. My president is coming. My president must be the one who's the lead. And the first half an hour is just about Botswana, nothing else but Botswana, creating that space. And indeed it was. Now you get people by law, they were reluctant. They see the highest level of leadership. Fire, since that, have expanded, have bought another mine, created more employment. So it's active engagement. You are engaging all the time.
Yes. That's quite
and
interesting.
Then hage bra Motswana ke mara ke re tswa go bona sorry hage ra Motswana go gete ke mara ke re tswa go bona dipudi tsa mashi tse leng gore ntse re se mo be re dile ka tsone ke se look and see what you can do out of it. Re tswa go bona dikgomo, particularly after researching with my team, drought master leng gore our environment and where it is in Australia is a continent. The similar weather patterns, environmental patterns, maybe this could work go high. You know, so yes, you bring such things.
Yes. Closing, and what exactly do you intend to bring back into Parliament? That's different now.
What do I intend to bring to Parliament? I still want to bring a woman's voice. There's not enough voices about me. Go Parliament. That's number one. We need women voices in Parliament, and I want to stand up and be counted to be one of those that says I can come. Not just woman voice, an experienced voice, a competent voice, a formidable voice. Okay, and I say that because been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and have learned from others. Yes, so I want to bring back that voice. Secondly, I want to go back to Parliament because I want to bring representation of my constituency and my constituency, Tswapon South. Okay, I want to bring back influence of the laws that we make in Botswana, the bills that come to Parliament, the way we debate them, add the little that I have to what is on the table to reshape Botswana. So I want to be part and parcel of an evolving society, come country, come a people. But the best place to do that is Parliament.
It's Parliament.
Yeah, that's the biggest platform that you have. And then my constituents is to finish the business. That's perhaps where the unfinished business is. Because there were projects that were pipeline projects that have not moved since I left. There are projects that have moved, but now they need to spread to the rest of the constituency, because what comes to mind is water. And to also inspire youth.
Yes.
I really, if you say what is my greatest nightmare, I don't want our youth to lose hope, to lose, to get them to think differently.
Yes.
I really am going to be pushing this thing where we cannot all be working class.
Mindset change.
And if we can't talk about we cannot all be working class and talk honestly about it and say, then if we can't all be working class, what is it that we need to do as a nation? Yeah.
So yes, as we were talking, one other important aspect through your journey of entrepreneurship and your career has been farming. We are sitting today, we have been surrounded by peacocks,
And peahens.
Peahens, what are peahens?
Peahens.
Peahens, what are peahens?
Yes. Peacock is the male. Peahen is the female.
Oh, I'm getting learned.
The beautiful one that you see,
yes,
that's the male one.
Okay.
Yeah, the male has to be beautiful to court the girl.
Okay.
The girl is the grayish one without the tail.
Oh, that's
so
quite
it's been
interesting.
Quite a mixture.
So at some point, the breeze, we couldn't resist taking a nap just in the breeze, and I felt rejuvenated. So I think it's quite an interesting place. I don't know, you tell me how many hectares all these citrus fruits are, but as you go through this issue farming, which I see you have invested extensively into it when you ventured into farming, I would like to know how your experience has been as a farmer, and what role do you really think agribusiness can play in addressing Botswana's unemployment challenges?
First of all, we must change with the mindset.
Yes.
Don't tell me that I'm a farmer, because I'm an entrepreneur who happens to be in the farming space.
Yes.
That is quite critical, because I'm not limiting myself or ring fencing myself
into just farming.
Entrepreneurship in its broadness. Because one time I might decide not to farm, but still be here and enterprise. So that's why I'm an entrepreneur who happens, for now, to be in the farming space or exploring the farming space in the different variety. Sometimes when you speak, people rate, but you must follow it with deeds. When I talk diversification, I must show it here. When I talk, I must be self-reliant. When I talk wealth creation, when I talk employment creation, it's all here. This farm employs, how will be this in there? In excess of 150 people. When we are harvesting, you'll probably see it when you go around. Because they'll be harvesting this, doing that. This Agribusiness rural industry supports the nearest village of Morgan. How about Morgan? Whether it be good, you can actually see translation of rural industry in your own eyes. But this farm started primarily with 3 crops: butternut, tomato, capsicums, green pepper, red pepper. That grouping is called capsicum. Now we do that. Off season we do cabbage, which you've probably seen. But we've also said we can't just rely on those, because the market is coming saturated because of the effectiveness of the program changes of government. Market the price goes down to below the cost of production, and it doesn't make business sense. So you then diversify, go into citrus production. But I think the challenge in every setting that we do, go to the next level, secondary production, which will be processing, whether or process tomato whether processor citrus we processor, because there's not a lot of players there. and then take the decisions by government at marketing level, protection of infant industry to these new emerging industries as well. You were saying when I go back to Parliament, I just want to bring up one of the things that I'm going to continue to push passionately is protection of infant industry, and to be unapologetic about it. But our people, which is us, little now we must bring it to the table. We must bring it to the table. We must do market research. O ska tsogela hore go tilo go alimele nna ke a go lema. Bona hore o ka tsena ha kae? Ga gona di mushroom, mma ke tsena ha di mushroom. Oh, ga gona mo mma ke tsena. We cannot all do the same thing. The market is going to die, and we cannot also close the border forever. So we have to invest in that space. I want to still
quality and standards, yes.
Quality. I sell reliability. I sell consistency. I sell quality here. More for sons as we call ourselves, and we are a significant player in the market. And my team, they run the business. Now I just guide, but Botswana hela both like business, largely youth and labor. So it's youth and women by they are running this business, and it has been growing and growing and growing and growing, and it will continue to grow. Why? Because I cannot just rely on my life as a politician. I cannot just rely on my ability to get a job. What is it that I'm doing for myself to sustain myself? And that is where we need to go. All the time. Two things that I want to maybe be partitions. Number one, really youth. We are human beings first. Always. Who happen to be youth or who happen to be women. Highly youthy, that's a transitioning phase. At some point, I was a total youth. So don't bottle yourself and youth. A youth. Nakili youth. That thing will damage you. You understand? So, you don't see the rest of the world. You must see, or you are human, who happens to be female. Because then you widen your scope. You look at every hey, and then you have allowed yourself to be capable enough to operate in every space, because we are human beings after all, and you build the competency that is the competencies that are necessary. I feel sad when I see a child I feel very sad, and I say, why can't I take this child and mentor them to find a job? But remember, how mindset change. Dorcas Makgato, I was sitting here. School fees guy. My heart started beating. That's me, working class. I get to say, but I'm already panicking. Hey, what am I going to do? How? And my brother, that shall remain nameless. How? Not track Iran kamragre it looks order right my dear Trakele Hazura hita salary government. So what are you talking about? Mindset again. Gaur kids molo rueta. Ke bone mo because ke toetse mo go tang manazula go go nyenyane. So we need to change. And also sometimes panicking gore it disables you from thinking gore o ka khona gore o tshele o sa bereke but we ipereka we itirela wena.
We are used to a certain
to things that are guaranteed nako ke gavi ke government ke wa ka go tsa zile wa shut down government a re bona gore go ta irala ja go ta thunya dithas. So I think that is where we need to go. Batho ba rona ba khone go itse gore ba ka itirela. You find in this industry, you find how it's go to pricing ba batla go ha madi a manyane ba go tsetsa ba dishopo tse ditona o ka letsa go dimo ga stharagale o bo emisa dilori ke emiso mo ngale ka le nna be ke go mama ga to ka re rekeng o bo rekisa 2 hectares wa di onion ka price ga go e leng gore it's correct without having to sit and complain gore batho bale they are giving me the wrong prices. So I wish we could go back to just be fighters for ourselves and not be pointers of the inefficiencies of others, whether it be retail business, whether it be government, whether it be a local government, and try to rely a lot on our ability to influence as people.
What would you say? That's quite enlightening. What would you say in terms of actually? I would take advantage to use your farm in this context. I would like to know maybe your production level and citrus, but also the pertinent question I'm trying to get at here is that for youth that are listening with or without ideas, what opportunities, extra opportunities and unexplored opportunities exist here because of what you have established?
First of all, I say to youth, you are in Gaborone, you earn 2,500. Wa go duela kombi, wa go duela taxi, wa go duela a room, go tswa ha wa go duela eng gape, and wa go sala ka bokae. But if you are here, o le mo farmong wa amogela 2.5, ga o duele rent, ga o duele kombi, ga o duele motlakase, ga o duele sepe, you got 2.5, you know, in. But somebody right now o ko toropong a tshwere 3,000 or 5,000 pula, wa akanya gore o better life, but what is it that remains in your hand at the end of the day? I say to people, ke gona go nna big tse pedi ke sa reka sepe a ke tsana go gaps ke simula ke utore ke toile tse nandos and then kare hey like ke toile gape because it's that's the nature of the world that you, so you end up spending money in things that are just you shop with your eyes. You understand? Whereas if you are here, that money how much o simula wa kanya ntu ke tshwantse ke go aga. You know, ke practical, tangible things besides just having bought food. So I say to youth, Botswana, the next millionaires and probably billionaires is going to come out of the bush. They don't have to come and grow tomato. If they have a timo, they can decide gore tshimo ra go tsaya advantage ya manano a leng teng. I want to put game in it. I'm going to do agro-tourism. You can do anything. You know, so because the market is saturated. So let's get out into our villages, our rural, and see what is it that we can do out of there.
No, that's quite.
And this is more quick money than the tender.
It's actual it's real business. I often say that tenders are not business. You are not even in business yet because you are just hoping that you will win. It's gambling. It's gambling. You are just hoping that you will win the tender, and then you are just putting markups and prices. But when you are really here, maybe farming in this case an instant, you are really in the entrepreneurship space because, like you said earlier on, you are canvassing through the whole value chain. Right from the soil all the way to understanding the accounts and the bank and how to manage employees. Do you think that as a country where we are in terms of maybe youth empowerment and policies as you go into this, there are certain things that we can do better?
Self-reliance. How to self-reliance as and where we have done well as a country, self-reliance, back to the examples that I gave. School, we relied on ourselves. We didn't rely on our government to self-reliance. We depended on our parents to facilitate as a community. That is what is happening with good government, good English medium schools. The parents teacher associations so they come up with some creative we're no different. So self-reliance in every aspect is the core. I go back to that and I want to conclude that believing in one's self, you are a master of your own destiny. You can go where you want to go. When you determine, right? How can you go further than your ring? I can't na squeal. You're not going anywhere fast.
During your time in Parliament, between you and Tebelelo Seretse and Matsireleso, who do you think was the heaviest hitter against those men who were full of
I've always enjoyed Matsireleso. At the time. Maseretse, I think, when I went into parliament and when I leaned to diplomacy at the time, yeah. So we didn't serve in the same parliament. But Maseretse tutile how to maneuver in politics and how to add banter into your debate and how to tackle opponents. Me, serious, you know, and how you threaten them or how can we you know.
The way you used to tackle those men.
And I remember the easiest was, I can't remember, and I'm sure they won't mind mentioning names. I think at the time, Debswana, I will sing gore gampe go madomo kore ga ba ga ketsele ba ba sa tsanang dikwele tota ga e sa thole di move something along those lines. And Mesilo sa ba bitsa point of order. And about Mr. Speaker, la ba sa buimaina rona kana ba ra bo rona gore ga rena di certificate mme ne kere ke ruha le tsentwe gore nna tsa medi dintsi ke batla o simolla ka sa divorce. The whole parliament ha le tsa masimo ga ke bui kana ke you know, just a smart way of just outmaneuvering swiftly, you know, and Jumsi go there disarming the opponent, yeah.
But what's your most memorable thing in Parliament?
In Parliament, it was when I went into Parliament, because it's really not my first love. I called my siblings, my cousins, my friends. We had a bride to say, guys, I'm going into this thing. So, I got into the Dorcas that you know. Please call another meeting. Let's have a bride. Right? So one day, when Bo Moyo was still and Buguma were in opposition. When I chair a parliamentary committee, accounts committee, so about that is a PAC report. They were smart. They decided about this executive summary. And then we'll do it fast. So, but this executive summary, the full report. When you debate about what is in front of you. So, what was in front of us in the executive was everything that was bad about government. Okay. So, page man. So it took one or two get, hey, what, there's something wrong. And I give out the report. So I call for a point of order to say that the house is out of order. We can't talk about an executive report without the report itself being there. We can confine ourselves to debate, but the report, so there can be no executive report without the report itself. A PAC report has even remember Nigeria. Part 1, part 2. How part 2. Very in God we trust. Trust about that. Don't know, it doesn't. So they had to withdraw. So I'm so sorry, I feel so bad. You really had me wait as the most. You are now a politician. I tried to move, you were squeezing. So I was just laughing, thinking, you know, we had to go back. To the grave. I remember that moment. But then those ones that I said, my please were yeah, so yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
quite interesting time it was. I don't want to take all of your day. I truly appreciate Releha. And all the likes. I do believe that we'll continue having engagements even after elections and going into all of this. Now we are a growing platform. We want to learn from leadership like you as we go along, so that even our audiences also can have something to talk about from a different level of conversation in our society. So I want to thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for reaching out. And I had absolutely no intention of doing media, but I don't know whether you're persuaded or you're taking a risk. But but you know, yeah. So we'll continue to engage as we go along. Yeah. Thank you very much.